Welcome to Light Over Heat with Professor David Yamani. This week, a few words about my hiatus from this channel and what brought me back. When I launched this channel in January of 2022, I committed to myself to do 52 straight weeks of videos, one video a week for a full year, just to give the channel an opportunity to see whether it was contributing something of value. I made it to 47 videos and last fall, and then I took what I thought was going to be a short hiatus to deal with the fact that I was selling and buying a new house and moving to be closer to my in-laws. But that short hiatus for the move ended up stretching out to 5 months. It's also the case that in the intervening time period, my father died, and I had to put a lot of time and emotional energy toward that. But also toward the end of 2022, as I was looking back on the year, as I often do, I was a little bit despondent about whether I was actually speaking into a void in this gun issue and whether there was a place for my ideas. And part of this was due to the fact that beginning in July of 2022, an agent I secured, who's one of the top agents in his field of selling nonfiction works, began trying to sell my book proposal for a book called Gun Curious about my travels through American gun culture. The book really tries to occupy a middle ground in the debate. Much like I do on this channel, it tries to turn the heat down on the gun debate and raise some light. It tries to explain guns and gun owners to those who are non-owners and to the gun curious. And it also tries to tell what I know is a story that's of interest to people who are current gun owners, because I've talked about my story to gun owners quite a bit. And so I thought it was an ideal project in these divisive times to try to bring various sides together and tell an interesting story about guns. But the response I received was very disheartening. Certainly publishers pass on book projects for all sorts of reasons, but I want to read a couple of the editorial comments that were really hard for me to hear. For example, and here I'm going to be reading from my computer screen, so excuse me for looking away. Here, one response, and this was from a librarian who a publisher asked to read my proposal. The person says, "It's obvious that the author is intelligent and informed," thank you very much, "but the author's journey from card-carrying liberal to gun owner to NRA darling is the way they characterized the story that I was telling." And so the notion that the book is basically some sort of pro-NRA treatise, or that the NRA loves me for some reason, really says a lot about how that person was receiving the work, and I think not accurately. Another reviewer, again, another librarian who read the proposal, "While the author is an excellent academic and writes very well, it remains impossible to recommend this work. I can appreciate how the author is seeking to break new ground in this field, but I cannot think of a more irresponsible premise. The views put forth here are reprehensible, built on the backs of the grade school children who continually forfeit their lives." And just tremendous frustration on my part that regardless of how moderate the tone I take, no matter how much I try to speak to the middle, no matter how much I try to translate each side to the other, that the mere mention of guns in any context other than as baby killers, essentially, is out of bounds for this person. And then a third review says, "I'm not pro-gun, I'm pro-truth," something that I've said about myself, "framework doesn't feel to me like it belongs in a serious book on this subject, or rather in a non-Regnery non-broadside, not overtly conservative, coded publisher book. So basically, again, anything that isn't explicitly critical of guns then becomes coded as some sort of thing that would only be published by a conservative publisher and not actually intellectually serious. This editor continues, I feel a bit perplexed about the politics of it all. I don't actually think that there's a substantively pro-gun or gun-curious, yet still avowedly liberal audience anymore. So I'm not totally sure how or to whom one would successfully market this book. And again, here, taking this person's own obviously narrow understanding of the world of guns, failing to appreciate that there is a huge number of liberal or moderate gun owners, or people who are gun curious, people who are not yet gun owners, but who are thinking of becoming gun owners. This is, to me, again, just a source of tremendous frustration because it doesn't even allow the book the opportunity to find that audience that I know exists. But this idea that there's really no market for a book that doesn't engage in the culture war over guns, that isn't either conservative from my cold dead hands or liberal, guns are bad, that there isn't a book that can occupy a thoughtful middle ground, is something that I heard from other editors. So here's one. While Yamani's approach to guns, gun laws, and gun culture is a unique kind of thoughtful middle ground, thank you, I think we'll be hard-pressed to get people on any side of the gun issue, pro, anti, curious, etc., excited enough to lay down money for the book. And another editor said something almost exactly the same. Yamani draws such an interesting picture of American gun culture, particularly as it exists for those who aren't part of the supercharged core we hear the most from in discussions around gun control. His perspective on what safe, responsible gun ownership looks like is an important one to keep at the center of the debate. Again, thank you very much. We have concerns, however, that it will be difficult to locate readers looking for a tonic-like approach to such a heated issue. And again, I'm not in the business of selling books. I'm in the business of trying to sell my ideas. And it may be the case that there isn't an audience for this kind of work. And this is one of the things that I was thinking about when I stepped away from this channel, is that this channel is explicitly designed to help find and to cultivate such an audience, and maybe that audience actually doesn't exist. And the other thing about 2022 for me, and some thinking I did while I was on hiatus, is that I really believe we're going to make the most progress on the issue of guns and the division over guns in America through face-to-face conversations. I use social media to try to promote my ideas, to try to promote dialogue. But we know that social media is toxic. We know that the way the algorithm works is designed to cultivate echo chambers, and that people aren't accountable for their ideas, and all of the worst aspects of the way we interact with each other get manifest in social media. But I had some experiences last year of sitting down, speaking face-to-face with people whose views on guns differed, typically outside of a media spotlight, without a camera on, without a microphone recording. And so I was really going to redouble my efforts to try to cultivate opportunities to engage in those kinds of conversations, of which this channel, I think, is not a part. So that was another reason why I had to step away from the channel. And I honestly didn't think that I was going to come back to it, but I had some experiences talking to people, again, across divides in the gun issue. Chuck Todd, from the liberal side, Trey Gowdy from the conservative side, friends, family members, other folks in the media. And this has given me the encouragement to wade back into this channel, somewhat cautiously. I don't know how long I'll keep going with it, but your thoughtful engagement with this channel is a reason for me to be back, and I look forward to that going forward, however long it lasts. Thanks so much for sticking with me through this longer than average video. I had a lot to get off my chest, and I appreciate your willingness to hear it.